Good. I guess it's evening now. Good evening, everyone. We are students from the Maryland Coalition to Reimagine School Waste, representing a call to action from students, teachers, and families for food waste action in schools. So the problem is that right now, Maryland schools are currently mass-scale factories for greenhouse gases that put us deeper in the trenches of climate change. And the reason for this is food waste, which is the third largest contributor to climate change across the board. All of the banana peels, apple cores, half-eaten sandwiches, and even unopened food that gets thrown into our cafeteria's trash on a daily really adds up. In fact, it adds up to 25.8 million pounds of food waste each year just from Maryland schools. And that's enough to fill 1.7 million trash bags in just 1 year. So we're seeing a really huge impact from this. But what we're also seeing is that our landfills and incinerators were fundamentally not built to handle these rotting piles of food waste. We see it as that food waste sits there and it gets burned and releases tons and tons of greenhouse gases while also leaching polluting ashes into our water systems. The amount of CO2 produced by all Maryland schools in just 1 year is equivalent to burning 15.7 million tons of coal. So a real huge environmental impact. But what we're here to represent is the over 60 students and teachers that we personally have talked to from Washington County all the way down to Wicomico County. And what they tell us is that they're dedicated and honestly desperate to make a change of how we manage our food waste, because a lot of students, they're scared about whether or not there's going to be a safe environment for them or their children in the future. So at the end of the day, when we have a school system that our students and teachers are reaching out to us and telling us is failing its fundamental purpose of protecting and preparing students for the future, that's a system that's broken and what we're here to fix today.
So over the past 5 years, we've all been working to roll out a very simple solution. We put a separate green bin in school cafeterias right next to trash and recycling, and the students will put their uneaten leftover food in those green bins, which are then hauled every week by a third-party contractor to a nearby composting facility. And with that simple solution, we've seen that we're able to collect about 2,000 pounds of food waste every month from every single school, and that adds up to about 10 tons of food waste per year. If we look at the numbers of how many schools are enrolled in an average-sized Maryland public school, we're estimating around 26 pounds of food waste being collected from every single student in 1 year. And in terms of the environmental impact of that, eliminating that individual footprint is the same as eliminating the same amount of greenhouse gases emitted by burning 70 pounds of coal. And in terms of the water resources that go into growing that wasted food, it's the same as cutting about 150 showers. So it's huge environmental impact per student per year for this simple solution. And as an added value for composting, only about 10% of the waste that we recycle actually gets recycled. But 100% of the food waste in those green bins is turned back into soil that actually has the nutrients to grow better food, that's more healthy, has more nutrients, and also sequesters carbon back from the air. So for this impact, it only costs every school about $2,000 per year, and that's before adding any special rates or like discounts from doing the program on a large scale as a government grant program. These programs don't require much energy or effort to maintain either from school staff or building services, but we've seen that the process of getting them started is a little bit complicated. It requires a lot of time, energy, and support from the school system. And we're very fortunate to be working in Frederick and Montgomery counties, where we have those resources and support from the central office as well as from each school where we have dedicated teachers. But that opens a really big equity issue because we know that not every school system has those resources, and that's why we're here today.
Okay, that's excellent, thank you.
Yes.
I feel like that's $2,000 a year per school.
We also have like a little bit more, if that's okay.
Yeah, sure, keep going.
So in our composting schools, we notice that these students are doing such an amazing job and they're really catching on really quickly, but they're also trying to compost completely untouched, unopened food. In fact, in one school in Montgomery County, we saw that they had over 60 cartons of milk and a lot more donatable food, such as apples and carrots, each day. Food that if we can redistribute back into our community for community members that actually need this food. So the food recovery component of this program, it aims to solve this problem in just 2 simple low-cost solutions. So it's basically a spin-off of the shared table system before COVID. So there's a share cart and a mini fridge that goes inside the cafeteria. So the share cart is for the students' non-perishable food, and the mini fridge is for the students' perishable foods. So these students have the opportunity to come throughout the day and grab food, and they're also able to take it home, which is especially helpful for food shy and food insecure students. And any food that isn't taken by the students, we distribute it back into the community that it came from through homeless shelters and food pantries. And keep in mind that 1 in 9 Marylanders face food insecurity. So by opening food recovery programs in every single school in Maryland, we're able to directly help over 200,000 students. In the past couple of months, we've actually opened food recovery programs in over 10% of MCPS schools, and there's a lot more schools that are interested throughout our state. People are ready and they're willing to make this program happen. And with statistics like this, it is crucial that you guys support the funding for these bills and these programs. And with your help, we can effectively help reduce food waste and hunger in our community.
So composting offers the unique benefit of a long-lasting education, specifically environmental education. So we see that science curriculums include environmental education, but not to a significant extent. So we see that with introducing composting ideals, we see that a lot of ideas of how to improve and help the environment directly is introduced by composting. And so we've created opportunities where middle schoolers and high schoolers are able to teach elementary school students, and also we're creating clubs at the middle school level to expose students to teaching the environment. So we actually passed around a couple of cards, like big cards with drawings on them. So those are only, those. So those are some of the cards drawn from a specific elementary school.
Elmerville, Carroll County.
Yeah. So there's a lot more cards that were created, but those are specifically from elementary school students. And a lot of the students we've seen when we talk to the elementary school and middle school students are very willing and very happy about participating in the program. And we see that a lot of them remember all the stuff about composting, and they're very quickly able to take in the information and very supportive of the ideas. And so we see that teaching composting at schools has a ripple effect. Teaching composting at schools allows students to bring back those ideas back home, and they're able to teach their parents and also families and also other religious groups or other places that they go to. And so we see that teaching composting is very important because it not only teaches students, but it also helps teach families and spread to other places and communities.
So as Sanjana mentioned, students are ready, willing, and able to start composting programs. In fact, over 10,000 students from all over Maryland from 77 different schools wrote expressing their desire to start composting programs. Students are extremely excited. I wanted to read one from Oakdale High School. This is a card from Catherine Bass. She is a senior at Oakdale. She wrote, "Please support composting public schools. My school has started composting and it is so easy and effective. I believe that if all Maryland public schools were able to compost, our state's environmental footprint would decrease exponentially. Maybe we could even encourage other states to do the same. Thank you for all that you do." However, the change needs to start from the top, which is where legislators come in. The original Maryland SB124 bill passed 44-0 in the Senate, and only 4 House members voted against it. However, despite passing almost unanimously, there was no funding to accompany it. We, the students, are no longer asking for change, we are demanding it, and we want results to be seen. And so here's our ask. What schools need now in order to successfully compost and recover food is 3 things: funds for hauling and materials, stipends for the teachers who make composting programs possible, and stipends for the custodians who make these composting programs successful. So the first is funds for materials and hauling. We need money to purchase composting and liquid bins, and we need money to pay for weekly hauling to composting facilities. And for food recovery, all that we need is funding for mini fridges and a share cart. So the second is stipends for teachers. At my school, Oakdale, our composting program is so successful almost entirely because of one person, Miss Nave. She is the environmental club leader at Oakdale. And when composting first kicked off about 2 years ago, she gave up both her lunch and planning period to see the composting program through, lead it, and educate students about how to properly compost. The issue is this left her to create lesson plans and grade papers on her own unpaid time, and this is not a sustainable system in other schools, which is why we need stipends for teachers whose time and dedication makes this program possible. And the other thing we need is stipends for custodians. At many public schools across Maryland, custodial teams are understaffed. There are often 3 to 4 custodians doing the work of 8. So if we're to add composting to their very long list of duties, we need to make sure that they're properly compensated.
Yeah, so thank you so much, Delegate Atterbury, Delegate Lanman Guzzone, and also the representatives from Senator Guzzone and Delegate Teresa. Sorry, I almost forgot how to pronounce her name. But we really appreciate you guys taking the time out of your busy schedules to meet with us and hear our words that we really hope get incorporated into the budget process for this year. We all have one planet and we all share it together, so it's really important that we come together to protect it. So if you have any questions, we'd love to answer them right now.
Yes.
Well,